welcome to Business Today Television, India Today Group. I'm Karishma Asoodani, and today we are diving into understanding one of the most significant subjects of today's times, and that is sustainability. Joining me is the Chairman and Managing Director of Nestle India, Mr. Suresh Narayanan. Thank you very much, Mr. Narayanan, for being on this conversation with us.
Thank you, Karishma. Thank you for having me.
Great. And Nestle as a brand has been recognized across the globe. There is no two saying about that. And especially in India with its emerging footprint across all the sectors. It's a household name, be it kitchens or conversations on responsible business. Let me begin by asking you, Mr. Narayan, how do you envision the role of leadership driving sustainability in a country like India?
I think the role of leadership is more than just guiding the fortunes of a corporation. The role of leadership is also to instill a sense of hope, action and sustainability for the corporate operations. And insofar as it impacts the environment, it is an important role that leadership plays. So when you talked about the brand recognition of Nestle and the fact that we are blessed across the world with millions and billions of consumers for our brands, I think there is an inherent responsibility of the company, not just in terms of the shareholders, but also in terms of the community and stakeholders and the society we live in. And that's why sustainability has been such an important part of our journey.
Right. You did talk about, and I'd like to reiterate it for our viewers, the term responsibility. Tell me a bit about Nestle India's plan with sustainability over the years. You've been with the brand for long now.
Yes, I think in India we've had a relationship of over a century with consumers, starting as a small trading operation in 1912 to being now one of the large FMCGs in this country. I think over the years, we have been talking about the brands of Nestle. So the Maggi, the Kit Kat, there's Nescafe, the Munch, and various other brands of Nestle. But one of the things that we need to remember is that behind those brands, there is a strong agricultural relationship that the company enjoys. So today in the milk products and nutrition that we sell, there are almost 80,000 to 100,000 farmers in the Punjab who've been working with us for the last 5-6 decades and whose fortunes indelibly have been linked with the fortunes of Nestle. So there is, for example, for Nescafe, we have a Nescafe plan that operates in Coorg and in Karnataka, and that entails the relationship on sustainable sourcing as per the codes of procurement of coffee across 5,000 farmers. Maggi is a brand that is beloved in this country. Behind Maggi is a whole bunch of spice farmers, almost 1,500 spice farmers spread across Gujarat, Rajasthan and Andhra Pradesh who are growing sustainable spices for the group. So in all this, there is a footprint of a link between the company and the farmers. And that is really what is responsible sourcing, as we call it. One of the pillars of sustainability is responsible sourcing. And that means that we have to provide and we have to nurture sustainable practices on the farms and in the dairy farms in order to ensure that we get the highest quality of raw material and yes, also sustainably sourced materials over a long term.
Right. Responsibility at core, at the fundamentals is what you're highlighting here. So would you be able to tell me if this journey of sustainability has changed from what it was a decade ago?
Look, I think one of the things is sustainability, Karishma, has to be in the DNA of the corporation. Sustainability is not a tick in the box. It's not a nice to have. It is a need to have. I have been with the Nestle group for about 26 years. And ever since I joined this company, and in fact even before that, we used to have as a company targets on greenhouse gases, on water consumption, energy consumption, effluents. All of this was part of the management repertoire of KPIs that the company had to achieve. Therefore, sustainable farming, sustainable packaging, sustainable manufacturing, logistics has all been an intrinsic part of the DNA of the company. And while the extent of impact has been dependent on the scale of the organization, nevertheless the focus on the KPI itself has been sustained over many, many decades now.
Right. So do you think it's difficult to manage the operating cost of the company when a lot of focus is put on sustainability?
Look, I think sustainability, as I mentioned to you, is something that is need to have, not nice to have. Fact number 2, consumers are not willing to pay for sustainability. However, their choices are determined by how responsible they feel that the company is towards society, towards the environment, and towards sustainability. In that context, therefore, especially in the inflationary times that we have faced, there is clearly a pressure in terms of not only factoring in the inflationary pressures of raw material costs, but also the sustainability costs to ensure that the books are balanced. However, as a company, being the world's biggest consumer goods company and the largest food company, we have 2 or 3 things that are available to us. One is economies of scale in terms of procurement. Number 2 is a repertoire of the best in science and technology in order to formulate our products. And number 3 is strategic purchasing capabilities and stocking capabilities in order to ensure that we try and mitigate as much of the cost as possible. However, if that still doesn't get balanced out is when pricing is looked at. But nevertheless, we do not compromise on what we need to do on sustainability, where, Karishma, as you are aware, Nestle has made global commitments.
Yeah.
It's not just commitments in India, it's commitments globally.
Yeah, and I wanted to come to that point. On that global net zero commitments, where does India stand?
Look, I think the commitment, the interim commitment for net zero by 2050 has got an interim target of 50% reduction by 2030. India is well on the road to achieving this goal. The big challenge that we have is on the climate change initiatives, especially on the dairy part, because dairy is a big part of our portfolio. And in dairy, we are in fact, in some sense, one of the pioneers in the use of biodigesters for the circular economy as far as the dairy farms are concerned. And that is where we have more than 3,000 to 5,000 biodigesters which have been installed, which have shown substantive reductions in greenhouse gases and the reductions in the levels of methane. But that journey, if it proceeds as per plan, we will be well on target to achieve, in overall terms, somewhere close to the goals that the company has set for itself globally.
Okay. You did talk about climate change, and that is the elephant in the room that I wanted to address. A lot of impact, new addition to the world of sustainability and challenges that companies are now battling. A direct impact comes on supply chains, on value chains. What is Nestle's strategy, Nestle India's strategy on this?
Look, in terms of strategy and sourcing, as far as sustainability is concerned, there are 3 important features that I would like to point out to you. One is the sustainable sourcing of raw materials, whether it is sustainable sourcing of coffee, whether it is sustainable sourcing of milk, whether it is spices, or whether it is oils. We use all the knowledge that we have as a company in order to ensure that majority of our materials are sustainably sourced. So today there are about 55 to 60% of our materials, overall materials, which are sustainably sourced, and the number is only going up. For example, in coffee, it will be close to 100% very soon. So sustainable sourcing is one part of it. Sustainable manufacturing and logistics is the other part. Today we are in a situation where 100% renewable sources of energy are being used in our factories.
Yeah.
Today we have got e-fleets as far as logistics is concerned. We're working with numerous companies in order to ensure that electric mobilized fleets are available to us in order to make the primary movements. The third element of our program on manufacturing has been the reduction in water, reduction in energy, and the reduction in greenhouse gases in manufacturing. Today we have got proprietary technologies available in manufacturing which can reduce the uptake on groundwater by almost 20 to 25%. 190,000 cubic meters of water has been saved last year. About 89,000 gigajoules of energy has been saved because of renewable sources of energy and by reduction in the quantum of energy that is being used. So manufacturing and logistics is the second piece of it. And the third piece is recycling and plastics recycling as a practice. Last year we generated almost 25,000 tons of plastic that is used in our products. We have collected and recycled as is best possible in India, and I stand corrected here because the facilities are still limited. We are plastic neutral for the fourth year in a row now. Reduction in virgin plastic usage by almost 900 tons has been achieved, and almost 59 to 60% of our packaging is now designed for recycling. So we are moving quite quickly in that direction, but that is where the question of the recycling facilities in the country would also come into play. And we do hope, and I think the government is very conscious of it, and numerous steps are being taken in order to enhance the recycling facilities, which will hopefully help us to be able to discharge our objectives and discharge our responsibilities on sustainable plastics as one of the objectives.
Has it been easy doing it on the back end in terms of the resources availability, in terms of the technology availability?
It has not been easy, Karishma. It has not been easy. I think still I must hasten to add that a lot of the recycling that is being done is not in the environmentally most optimal manner, and that is where the facilities are important. As a company, we ourselves can only do that much in terms of the facilities, but I think there is a larger consciousness that is playing today to be able to generate these facilities for optimal recycling.
Has it been your ask to the policymakers, to the government?
It definitely has been one of the requests that we have got. I must say, Karishma, that there has been a lot of awareness on the issue and consciousness to move in the direction. Hopefully, it will translate into action as well.
Okay, so you've spoken about 4 different parallels, like I'd like to term them as it's climate, it's packaging, it's water, and it's responsible managing, sourcing. Why these 4, and how did you come on a conclusion of dividing them as per these?
Look, I think one of the things is sustainability is looked at as a business imperative. There are 3 differences in the way in which I believe Nestle approaches sustainability. Number 1, it is part of the DNA of the company. It is not seen as a nice to have, it is seen as a need to have. Number 2, sustainability is seen as a business imperative. So therefore, businesses are co-opted in terms of projects on sustainability, which is divided into the 4 that you said on climate, water, sustainable sourcing, and packaging. There is a sustainability steering committee, which is chaired by me as the head of the company, and all the businesses bring to bear the projects and the resources that they need in order to make the sustainability projects happen. These are evaluated, these are reviewed, And this is very much part of the corporate reporting of the company. For example, the BRSR reports
Yes.
that will be appearing now, and you'll be getting one for the last financial year, will report all of what is being done in a very transparent and succinct manner, the initiatives on sustainability. So all the initiatives are business driven, are business monitored, are KPI focused on the impact that it makes, on a overall framework of a need to have rather than a nice to have.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to say, Karishma, that almost 100 people across the organization are involved in sustainability initiatives,
Okay.
almost on a full-time or some of them on a part-time basis.
You did talk about the BRSR report, and the FY24 report was majorly inclined towards renewable energy and recycling, which you also mentioned. Now, you were talking about the FY25 report, which will now come. In the last 1 year, have you seen more such new strategies or sectors that you had to tap when it comes to sustainability beyond what you've already been doing?
Look, I think one of the things that I would say that we would really look at tapping into for the future, while we are focused on the 4 initiatives which I talked about, which also ties in with the globally enlisted large initiatives. One of the areas that can still be explored is to start collaborating with other companies, like-minded companies, on sustainability projects. It's a little bit like CSR initiatives.
Yeah.
If you partner with companies, you're able to make a much bigger impact on either rural water or education or sanitation. In the same manner, if you are able to come together as companies, there is a bigger play that can be had on sustainability as well.
Yeah. In the past, have you had the chance to probably tie up with any early startups or companies that are deep down in sustainability along with technology?
We've had a few initial initiatives that have been taken to work with, especially on the packaging area. Some of it is very nascent at this stage, but for example, in the use of seaweed as a sustainable packaging source, there was startup work that we had done. Similarly, on other use of wood waste and other such waste in designing sustainable packaging material, also the projects are on. I think more needs to be done in that space, and that's where the responsibility of large corporates to also play an incubator role in making these happen.
Yeah. On a lighter note, I know you wouldn't have the numbers for it, but how much of your profits or revenues are set aside for your sustainability initiatives? How much focus do you give on them in terms of percentage?
Look, I think it's a fairly large amount of money that is put on an annual basis. Almost, I would say, in some years, not necessarily every year, in some years, almost 100 basis points of operating profits would be put behind sustainability.
Great. And
in some form or the other.
Great.
And that's what puts the pressure on the whole P&L, because the costs are escalating much higher.
Absolutely. You were talking, Mr. Narayan, a while back about the employee contribution and how a lot of people are now full-time and part-time involved in this. Any interesting campaign or intra-company activity you'd like to share by Nestle India, which focused keenly on sustainability?
Look, I think we have a program that has been initiated a few years ago with modest success. Now we need to accelerate it. Is really to give employees, interested employees, a kind of a sabbatical to work on sustainability projects.
Oh.
So they are called sustainability champions.
A paid sabbatical.
A paid sabbatical, right? So for a month or 2 months is what we've been able to afford. A couple of people, I would not say it has become a big movement because people still have their jobs and lives to manage. But a few spirited people have decided to participate in sustainability projects. And I think that is bringing about an increasing consciousness. And I dare say that today's generation of employees take sustainability as something that is like air and water. that it's an essential part of corporate living.
Yeah.
And it's not something that is a luxury that we need to look at.
Right. And how do you manage between ensuring the fact that sustainability standards of products are maintained, but also the affordability is maintained for an end consumer?
Look, I think this is where the equation comes between the sustainability costs and how much of it are we able to mitigate through either technology, through recipes, or through optimization of usage. In some categories, this can be managed quite effectively and efficiently. In some other categories, there are short-term impacts, and therefore it may not be the most optimal in certain cases. But in most of the portfolio, we try and balance out sustainability costs with raw material inflation, with the possibility of pricing, and then to look at the net equation after that to see what is it that we can afford from a business point of view.
Would it be fair to say that, per se, in the last few years, keeping aside the inflationary cost, the prices of products by Nestle India has not been increased owing to the factor of sustainability because you've been able to manage them?
Sustainability-wise, cost-wise, you are probably right that we can find the kind of avenues in order to meet and mitigate the sustainability costs to a large extent. But commodity inflation has been a much larger factor. And there we have not been able to find the answers to have a zero price increase.
And that's a global concern currently.
That's a global concern.
Right. You've spoken about responsible sourcing. From an end user point of view, have you seen, as per the buying selling trend and the business trend by Nestle, that there has been a responsible buying also by the consumer?
Yes, I think responsible consumption, I would say, is becoming the order of the day because people are balancing their need for taste and satiation with nutrition and long-term wellness. And I think that in itself brings in a certain balance between the urge to consume and the quantum that is consumed.
Yeah, and out of curiosity, you do market and advertise your products with also the sustainability factor, do you?
Yes, we do. I think the fact of the matter is that our advertising in some of the key brands does talk about sustainability. In the coffee, for example, we talk about the coffee plan. Maggi, we talk about the plastic recycling. So key brands do carry this message, and our paths to getting our packaging and getting our products more sustainable continues despite the inflationary pressures and despite any other cost pressures that we might face.
Yeah. Mr. Narayan, you've been at the helm of the sustainability initiative at Nestle India. What are the upcoming plans for the company in the area of sustainability? In 5 years from now, where do you see Nestle India taking over when it comes to responsible sourcing and, maintaining the climate records or abiding by the rules?
Look, I think sustainability is not a one-off game. It's a marathon, and we believe in the power of the marathon. Discipline, focus, hard work, and sense of focus and direction are all important in a marathon. So the 4 initiatives that I talked about will still remain at the core of the company. We would still like to be the best in class in this, but we do not for a moment take the eye off the ball in terms of what is affordable and what is relevant for the consumer. Because ultimately our solace lies in being able to serve consumers with products that are relevant, with brands that are sustainable, with brands that are affordable, and brands that give the best value possible in a category to them. And that means that you have to operate on cost as a vector, sustainability as a vector, pricing as a vector, and value as a vector. And that equation can change over a period of time, but the direction of any of them is only to enhance the relationship with consumers.
Very well said. If there is one policy or regulatory shift that government could give us when it comes to sustainability or accelerating corporate sustainability, What do you think should be the key ask?
I think the extended producer responsibility, the EPR facilitation through better recycling facilities would be something that will be great because it will avoid a lot of plastics going to landfill if we don't find the mitigatory steps going forward.
Right. And on a global scale, do you see that countries, not just India, but other countries have been able to kind of climb the ladder to be able to abide by these?
See, in many countries now, for example, plastic recycling is no longer even a topic of conversation. There is a segregation of plastic, there is a recycling of plastic, and they have moved on. Now, I hasten to add that India's size, scale, and diversity of population makes the challenge many giga times what it is in many of these countries.
Awareness is also our challenge.
But awareness is also our challenge. But then it's a fact is that in localized areas, if we are able to work, I mean, how has Indore happened? How has Surat happened? How has Mysore happened? These are all Indians. They're all like you and me. But there is an acute consciousness in these cities. And these cities, a decade ago, looked and felt very different. So, I think it is possible. As human beings, we live in hope. And as Indians, I think we have a lot to be proud of. But then I think this movement, it's not just the government, it's civil society as well that needs to come together. But some of the larger facilities for recycling will have to be provided by the government with PPP participation if necessary in order to make it happen. Because the scale is too big for any one person to be able to make this happen.
Okay. As we come to the end of this interview, I have one last question, and this is absolutely on a lighter note. I'd like to get a word from you. In a word or two, or maybe I'll let you take a phrase, how would you describe the sustainability journey of Nestle India?
It's been a satisfying, sustainable path to progress.
SSP, I'd say that. Thank you very much, Mr. Narayan, for joining us on this conversation. That was Mr. Suresh Narayanan, Chairman and Managing Director of Nestle India, with big mission on sustainability. I'd call him the man on mission who's been driving the force on sustainability with Nestle India. More to come definitely in the years later. Thank you very much and keep watching us on Business Today Television.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.